Good afternoon. Welcome into a Tuesday, December 29th edition of Market Talk. I'm your host, Jesse Allen. Great to have you here with us. MarketTalkAg.com. That is our home on the web, MarketTalkAg.com. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It is all at Market Talk Ag as well. What an explosive day we had in our grain trade today. Let's talk about it. Bring in our good friend Matt Bennett with agmarket.net here on the program today. Matt, good to see you. Merry Christmas. Man, oh man, what an explosive day in this grain market today. What is your initial reaction to what we ended up closing at today?
Initially, just holy smokes. I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy market. So yesterday, I mean, we had our webinar yesterday afternoon. Ag Market does this on Monday afternoons, and Brian Split on our team basically is good a technical analyst, I think, as there is in the business. And so he was just kind of going over with all of our viewers the fact that yesterday beans had a key reversal in that we opened up into new highs and then settled lower on the day. I mean, that is not a good thing from a technical perspective. You come in here today and what do? Oh, we just made new highs and closed 50 cents off the low. So January beans closed at 12.95 and a half. We traded at 12.45 on the overnight market and got up to 12.98 and 3/4. So we were banging on the door of $13. In fact, March beans 12.99 and a half. Obviously, these markets look poised to go on through 13. And to be honest, there really wasn't a lot of information that came out today that would have suggested that we would do something like we did. I mean, we heard some rumblings that China had bought some corn cargoes. Has that shown up yet, though, as far as anything other than a rumor? No, it hasn't. So, yesterday we had some nice export sales on both corn and beans. First time we'd seen those on beans in quite some time. And then on corn, we'd had a few just here and there, but it was sure nice to see those and start the week out. I think it set the tone for the week. But again, we kind of felt like today might be a little bit of an easier day. And then all of a sudden you look up and, we're trading up 20. It's like, holy cow, this thing can't keep going. And then we're up 30 and then we close up 40.
Yeah, and really just it was amazing because it seemed like it was a tale of two different stories. We closed the overnight, had that break in between, started the day session, and it was unreal to see this market take off. And I want to focus in on soybeans first. Obviously, the biggest winner of the day here. I mean, you mentioned it, about 50 cents off the lows. If I'm a producer and I had some targets set out there, I mean, man, oh man, I would almost think it would be tough to, if you blew past some of those targets today, it'd be tough to not reward yourself on this rally.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's so much angst right now and so much unrest amongst producers. What do I do? Because, they're afraid of making a mistake, and I keep hearing people say, hey, I don't mind selling 50 cents off the highs, but I don't want to sell $3 off the highs. But you know what? Let's just get realistic here. If you're selling beans, if you're still lucky enough, and I don't know a lot of guys got beans left or gals that's got beans left right now, but if you're selling beans basis the board within a nickel of $13 and you're complaining, you need slapped upside the head because those are extremely good prices, especially with yields we saw. And I know you and I have talked about this before, but given the fact that the national yield was pushing a record, that tells me that a lot of folks listening to this had record yields. And so if you had record yields and you're selling above 1275, 1280, good Lord, you know what? Be thankful, be blessed, and take a look at new crop prices. You've got a lot more beans left to sell, for next year. We're setting the table for a really good year in 2021, as long as we're paying close attention.
Let's look over at corn, Matt, and pushing to new highs in corn today. And I think that's a market where we got more producers out there who hanging on to some corn right now. I mean, who would have thought 466 of March corn and May corn was going to be something we would see before we flip the calendar to 21, if at all? I mean, just an amazing spot to be in here.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Beans were 50 off the lows. Corn was only 13 off the lows, but still 466. Again, you're looking at highs, new highs in the market. You look at December corn at 430. I mean, these are price levels that most of us would have given anything for a few months ago. And quite frankly, coming into the month of December, a lot of us felt like we'd see a little blase market, and traders that maybe kind of pull some of their money off the table. Let's just be honest. They made a lot of money being long the market. A the last several weeks. And so the thought process is that they were maybe going to pull some of that money off and live to play another day. But I just think that the fundamentals of this market, first of all, and second of all, the fact that U.S. corn is still the cheapest corn on the world market. The dollar continues to it's being pummeled today, down almost 0.4 the last that I looked at it,
Mhm.
back under 90. With that being the case, I think a lot of these traders said, what, they don't want to sit on the sidelines. We want to go ahead and stay in this because they don't want to miss out on something. And so, where are prices going as far as corn's concerned? Boy, it sure looks to me like we're heading to $5. I wouldn't want to hang everything on that. It's just that there's so much going on in this market you have to pay attention to. For instance, I'm 45 miles away from ADM Decatur. It's one of the, they handle as much corn as most people in the country do on a
Mhm.
daily basis. And yesterday, we saw the corn market up 5-6 cents. And then what Decatur do? They actually narrowed their basis 3 cents, and so
Mhm.
we saw our cash price rise almost a dime yesterday alone. You come in here today and you're up a dime again. As far as the board's concerned, 9.5 cents. Basis did not widen. Okay, most of the time in late December, early January time frame, if you get a rally of a dime, they're going to take a nickel of it, because there's corn out there to buy, and they don't have to push for it. But you talk to processors and they're saying the same thing over and over and over. Hey, there's not a lot of corn out there to buy. Farmers being tight fisted. You know what? If this COVID aid package passes and we get another $20 an acre for row crop farmers, you think that they're not going to be even more tight fisted? I mean, yeah, they're going to be more tight fisted because they see the story continue to develop. And until, for instance, Argentina gets what I would call a really good forecast and a soaking rain, I think that most people are going to be scared to death to go short this market.
Well, and I wanted to ask you another point too, and you kind of, got to it there at the end. Talking shorts and moving over on the long side. Do you fear that we got some longs in this market, and we might see some profit taking here before we get to the new year?
You would sure think so. You would not think that the last week of the year we'd see the kind of buying we saw yesterday and today. Now,
Mhm.
granted, volume isn't quite as big as what we might see at times, but today was actually a pretty good volume day, especially for the last week of the year. So
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, I would think some money would have to come off the table at some point in time, but at the same time, I don't look for any large scale pullbacks. For instance, yesterday morning, we were trading the market down a couple cents, and I was just joking around with one of my buddies. Hey, we ought to buy corn today and day trade it. Now, I hardly ever do anything like that. It's just something that I don't think that is a good practice for someone in my business. But I was just joking around, and I should have bought corn, because it's up 16 cents or 18 cents since I said that, and I didn't know that the corn market was going to do what it did. But you know what that told me? There was people that were waiting on this market to pull back. And as soon as
Mhm.
it pulled back a little bit, what they do, they bought it with both hands. I mean, they were ready to go. You see people continue to buy this market. And once again, when you see huge rallies in the market and basis doesn't back off, that tells you that the demand for the cash is so strong that it's going to continue to help carry this market, at a time whenever the market's already overbought.
Let's talk wheat prices, and that was kind of third in line today, but still a decent day across wheat futures. I know we got this winter storm moving across, much of the midsection of the country, maybe giving us a little bit of precipitation in the form of snow and ice in Kansas, and helping out the wheat crop there. But what did you see on this wheat chart today? Anything to look at moving forward?
Not necessarily, but I think the most interesting thing about the wheat market is that when we woke up this morning, corn and beans were off a little bit and wheat was up. And so
Hmm.
yesterday I made the comment to someone, it's almost like whenever you see geese flying, someone's got to take the lead, right? And so and if you watch them, they continue to switch around on who's taking the lead. That's what we're seeing with corn, beans, and wheat lately. It seems like one day both markets are two of the three markets are off, and the other one's trying to say, hey, come on, follow me along here. And that's kind of what we saw with wheat today. But then wheat ends up being the one that gains the least on the day. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of that has to do, once again, like you said, with precipitation. There's no doubt in my mind that that makes you a little less enthusiastic, especially when you're already over $6 on wheat. $6 is one of those price levels, I think, kind of like a 450, maybe 450 corn, where once you get above it, people take a look at it and say, well, it's going to take something really special to take us on up to that next level. And is the wheat market capable of doing so? Yeah, I think so. I think when you and I talked maybe just a couple of weeks ago, I said, if if the bean market and the corn market continue to rally, it's going to be tough to keep this wheat market down, especially wheat for the first time in many, many years is seeing a little bit of a tightening situation, both U.S. and world. And so with the balance sheets tightening up a little bit, I guess I'm not terribly bearish wheat. But again, when you get a little bit of good weather, whenever we're talking major drought out west, it definitely eases their minds a little bit and probably keeps the bulls at bay just a little bit on this wheat market.
Well, Matt, I think overall, just with where this market is heading as we move into 2021 January, we got that WASDE report coming up here just a couple of weeks away, and obviously an acreage battle shaping up here in the U.S. with corn, beans, and wheat. Our producers in the Dakotas and our wheat growing regions. I think we're really in line for a pretty explosive and exciting couple of weeks here, Matt.
I think so too. And I don't know how many people have asked me in the last several days, well, what do you think this January report's going to do to the market? I'm like, pay attention before the report ever happens, because everyone's already bulled up. It's projected to be a bullish report. And so, if we continue to run this market like we have, it's going to take an extremely bullish report to keep the ball rolling. Okay. So I think we need to look at these as opportunities. I mean, Jesse, you and I both know that most of the producers that you and I are going to talk to would have told us a couple months ago, or let's say 1st of August, that, if they could sell even $4 corn, they'd probably have sold it all, or if they could have sold $11 beans, they'd have sold it all. But yet we're sitting here at $13 beans, and we're sitting here at 460 corn. Pay attention to what this means to your bottom line. As the market continues to rally, take a little risk off the table as you go. I always talk about it like playing cards. If you're playing poker and you so happen to get that real lucky hand, and you're sitting there up 5, 6, 10 grand, if you don't put some of that in your boot, you're crazy, in my opinion, because all you're doing is you're just risking everything. And that's what we're doing with these markets, in my opinion, if we don't take some risk off the table as we rally.
That's a great way to put that, Matt. I totally would agree with you on that sentiment. Let's switch over to livestock and talk about that market here today. Cattle down a little bit. Country pretty quiet. Probably with that snowstorm moving through, not surprising. Asking prices 112, 113 in the south, 180 plus in the north. So we're getting a little bit of a higher asking price in cattle country right now. But what are you seeing in this cattle market? Just not a lot of momentum it seemed today.
Right, not much momentum today, which would make sense whenever you see feed prices up the way they are. I mean, bottom line, it's really hard to rally, especially fats, or especially feeders, whenever you see corn and beans up the way that they are. But at the same time, demand for beef has been so strong lately. Yes, we've got big numbers to chew through, but part of this, in my opinion, is the fact that we're trading a futures market, which, I think you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago as well. But you get out to April and you're already at a $4 carry, which is strange. What's strange to me is June's only running 114, August running 113 to 114. To me, you get out past the middle of the year, and your numbers would suggest, as far as placements are concerned, if this demand holds anywhere close to where it is right now, major excitement in this cattle complex. I mean, I could see $120 cattle pretty easily later on this year. Could it happen right away? Well, you know what? I didn't think that we would bump back on that 115, 116 level, which we're at 116 on February yesterday. So I didn't think that would happen necessarily, the kind of numbers we're running. But what that tells me is that beef demand is just flat out strong. And I've got to think that moving forward, it's going to stay pretty strong. I think anybody's fears over COVID hurting beef demand the first time around, they should have learned their lesson, because it really didn't happen the way that a lot of folks thought it would.
Mm-hmm. On the hog side of the equation, Matt, I know hogs were up today. We saw a little bit of dual support, not only for the futures side, but cash hog market, pork cutout values, that hogs and pigs report that came out last week. That was pretty much in line with what we expected, maybe even a little more friendly than we anticipated. What are you seeing at hogs right now?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, quite frankly. I mean, it was definitely a friendly report, but you look in here, pushing $70. Most of your contracts are running over 70. Really good carry in the market, but in my opinion, there's been a really good carry in this hog market over the last year or two, based on a lot of interest in how much is China going to buy out here on this pork situation as far as exports are concerned. But with them rapidly expanding their own herd, it tells me maybe we should be a little bit cautious about those huge carries in the market. So I'm not going to say that I'm bearish cattle, but I'm certainly not bullish 80 plus, or hogs. I'm certainly not bullish $80 plus hogs. I think whenever you get past in these deferred months, you got to pay very close attention, especially if you're a producer that's dependent on these prices. I know most of the growers are contract growers, but I do know that there's a fair amount of them that still watch these prices very closely and have to tie their contracts to it. So anything over $80, in my opinion, is a definite sell. Just
Well,
my
Matt,
opinion.
yeah, a lot of great insights today. Any other final thoughts you have for us here on Market Talk?
Just try to stay grounded. I mean, these are fun, exciting markets, absolutely, but you can't get lost in the weeds here. We've got to be very cautious, very disciplined in our marketing, and make sure that we understand that these price levels mean that we could make a ton of money. Not only on the 2020 crop, but the 2021 crop. And if we don't do anything about it, I'm afraid we're going to be kicking ourselves in the rear end at some point. It might be 12 months from now, but we got to be very cautious as to ignore the best rally we've seen in several years.
Well, Matt, if producers want to reach out to you and the team at agmarket.net to get some help, maybe they're trying to navigate these waters and stay out of the weeds, how can they do that?
Yep, agmarket.net. Just like you said, if they go there on the web, a really good place to find our research, see who all's on our team. And, we've got some good technology as well. So there's a lot to see there at the web. You can get everything that you want to as far as knowing more about our team.
Agmarket.net, that is how you could find them. Matt Bennett, appreciate the time as always, and I wish you and yours a happy new year, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, bud.
Matt Bennett with agmarket.net joining us here on Market Talk. Find us online, markettalkag.com. This has been the Tuesday, December 29th edition of Market Talk. I'm your host, Jesse Allen. Have a great afternoon.